And Michael created the system. I did not create the system. I followed the system. So in this session, I want to let you know exactly how I followed the system, what are the mistakes that I did initially and even later stages of my speech journey that I don't want you to repeat at all, and what are some things that you can start doing right now instead of making up those mistakes. So, Michael, shall I just go ahead and get started? Do you have something to say initially, an introduction or something? As you wish.
Yes, I was just getting us streaming live on YouTube. So, but no,
Yeah.
man. Yeah, thanks a lot for having this today, and I think that this will be a very good perspective for people to hear, and it should be pretty inspiring.
Mhm,
Because like you said,
mhm.
you're very close to where they are, so you're going to be sharing things from a different perspective than I would. Right. So yeah, I'll just jump in, when I need to.
Of course. Good, 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 good. So, going back, long story short, because I'll not go into a lot of details about the start, I have struggled with my speech for as far as I can remember. Because if I look back at my life, I don't see a time or I don't remember a time where I did not used to struggle with my speech. So this has been something which has been from the start. I don't know why. I've listened from my parents that there were some things that I got afraid of initially during my initial years, and that just came into my speech. We don't know. But as far as I can remember, I have struggled with my speech and have always had this fear of speaking. Moving forward, going to school, going to classes, not being able to say your name, not being able to say certain words, and being bullied because of your speech, being called by names because of your speech is something which obviously has a tremendous impact on a child because he sees himself as someone unique, not in a good way, but in a bad way. Everybody can speak well, everybody can say exactly what they want to say, but what's wrong with me? And I can still remember there were some classmates that I used to have, and they used to ask me to say certain words because they knew I would get stuck on those words and it would be a fun time for them. And honestly, looking back, I don't blame them for that because someone who has not struggled with their speech, sometimes they just don't know how it feels, what it looks like, and everything. From the outside, if you have not faced it, it can look funny. So people can make fun of them. I don't mean that people should, but I don't blame them for what they did initially. But obviously, it had a tremendous impact on my mental health. And everything in life is linked to each other. So it's not that you're having issues in your speech and everything else is going fine. When you have issues in one area of your life, they do creep into other areas because it impacts your mental health, and then your mental health impacts every other thing. So it affected my studies, it affected my grades. I would cry, I would not know what to do, no idea if there was a fix that I could find to it. And some people said that like this, you cannot do anything that you want in your life because no matter what you have, no matter whatever you can do, if you cannot even say your name, like how will you get a job? How will you do this? How will you do that? So all those things used to be really, really impactful. My mom used to take me to certain speech therapy programs, and it used to help for a while, but we know that most of the speech therapies they can work if you're a very little child, but as you grow older, there's a lot of mental component that comes into play because like I said, it's not only speech and the other things are fine. It impacts your mindset, it impacts your mental health, and then that impacts your speech. So it becomes a loop. And if you just keep trying to fix the physical thing without the mental thing, then oftentimes it does not work out. And unfortunately, most speech therapies do not do that. So your family tries to help you. You don't have to worry about your speech. You can do this. Please just speak slow, do this and do that. And after a while, you know that although they are doing all this to help you out, but that does not help me out. And it does not help the people out because just saying that, don't worry, you can do this and stuff like that is often something that does not work out. So moving forward, I knew that I had to do something. And I can still remember that one of my professors in grade 8 or 9 wanted me to do a speech. And they knew that I struggled with my speech. And the major reason they wanted me to do a speech in front of the audience, it was like 60, 70 people inside the audience. And the reason he wanted me to do that was so that I can overcome this fear. But I went onto the stage holding the mic was shivering, my legs were shivering, and without even getting a single word out, I had to go back. The audience was laughing. So this was one of the most embarrassing moments for me. Obviously, like not the one. There are so many with phone conversations, one-on-one conversations, school, stuff like that. But this was something after which I realized that I have to do something about it. And on the same side, I also knew that probably there's no solution to it. But I was like, maybe I can find something which can at least help me say my name at least, so that even if I don't improve my speech, I can at least say my name smoothly to people. I found some systems, they worked for a while. I'm not going to go into a lot of details. After a while, I used to slip back until I saw a video on YouTube from Michael. I still remember that video, and I would recommend you to go back and watch that video if you haven't already, because when I look back at my speech journey, I feel like that was the video that changed my life essentially. So, Michael, I don't know if you remember it. I have talked about it a few times. It was the
Yeah.
top three stuttering. It's a very old
Yeah.
video, like 2015, 16, 17, I don't know,
Yeah.
but around those times. So my perspective change after that video was a lot of hope, because the first reason, I knew that this is coming from someone who has struggled with his speech and is now speaking in the way that I want to speak. So this was a huge change, because other systems mostly they create a system to help the people out. Of course, they do it in the right way, but I feel like, especially in mental stuff and even in other areas of your life, if someone is not has not been where you are right now, and they are not where you want to be, probably they are not a very good teacher for you. So that person should have been in your place in the most cases. They should have walked that journey, and they should be at a place now where you want to be. So often those people are the people who are the best teachers and who can help you walk this path. This was the first thing. And the second thing, which completely changed my mindset, was the approach towards stuttering. About let's stop trying to eliminate it, which we know isn't helpful. You can keep trying to overcome stuttering, and you will keep trying to overcome stuttering for the rest of your life, because we'll talk about it in the upcoming minutes. It's about focus. The more you try to not stutter, what you're doing is that you're focusing on stuttering, and that focusing on stuttering is causing the stutter, right? So eliminating it, like mostly the other systems focus out there, is not helpful. So it changed my focus towards replacing stuttering. Not only replacing it, but becoming a smooth, amazing, and excellent speaker. And I absolutely did not believe Michael the first time that I heard him saying that this is the best thing that has ever happened to me and all of that. But now I can say it myself. I am really happy that I had to face this. I struggled with my speech because that made me become the speaker that I am right now. I would never have been like this if I had not struggled with my speech. So that video gave me a perspective like, oh, I can become an excellent speaker, even far above the average person. So the focus was now out of stuttering and overcoming stuttering towards becoming an excellent speaker. Although I did not believe it would happen, but it was good enough to give it a go. Like you hearing someone saying this, at least it felt good. And at least I felt like we can give it a go. And probably we can try it more than the other systems out there. Before I move on, Michael, anything you would like to add or say?
Yeah, a lot of times, excuse me, I got a little head cold. Yeah, a lot of times, people who are struggling with their speech in this way will often not believe that it's possible. In fact, I say this in a few of my videos that sometimes you'll believe it's not even possible for you to get out of this because you've been in it your whole life or for many years. And because you've tried lots of stuff, many people have even tried our self-study or tried our programs, and they've gotten out for a while and then they went back. And so you're going to be talking today about some of the reasons that people might slide back. Uh, and a lot of them are pretty basic, but some of them are belief driven and identity driven. So you'll probably talk about that today too. Yeah. Yep. So it's good when you can hear someone who's been there themselves and have gotten out of it, which is why I strongly encourage people who've gone through our program or are going through it to allow us to share videos or to do videos for us, because the same way that you struggled and you found something that's working only because other people saw, or because you saw videos of other people saying this really works, we ask you to do the same thing, because otherwise there's someone that you can touch that no one else can. So you may not think that that's true, but there's someone who needs to see your face and hear your voice in order for their lives to become better. Otherwise, it won't. So you don't know how important it is for you to share your testimony or your story. Like you just won't know. Mona shared hers probably more than a decade ago now, maybe, and people are still watching her. They're still blessed by her videos. So I'm just going to stop there for good.
Sure, Michael. Thanks. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started with some of the mistakes that I did along my speech journey, how to not do those mistakes, because I don't want you to repeat those mistakes, of course, if you are on this journey towards becoming a smooth, amazing, and excellent speaker. So, like everybody, I also wanted to join the private coaching right from the start, but I wasn't able to do it because of funds. Wasn't working at that time at all, and my parents, it was also hard for them to arrange the funds for the coaching. So they did help me get into the self study. Before the self study, I looked at Michael's videos for at least 6, 7 months. I kept looking at the videos, feeling like probably I don't need to pay something. I can just take advantage of his videos. And it gave my speech a huge boost. But obviously, in order for me to get to the next level, I needed something more systematic. In the best case scenario, the one on one coaching, but at least the self study. So I got inside the self study, and the people who already enrolled into this speech system, they would know what I'm saying. Get into the system, you're like, I finally got what I wanted. I'm not going to get stuck now. You're very motivated. I'm going to improve my speech. I'm going to take it towards the next level. And that placebo effect, initially, that excitement, your mind believing that something would work, it starts to make things work right from the start. So I can still remember that time, the first 3, 4 weeks where it was super smooth, and I felt like the work is done. I'm where I want to be. It was really, really super duper smooth. It's a very natural effect, And although it can go back after a while, but it's something that you can use to your advantage as well. Do you want to say something, Michael?
No, go ahead.
So you just opened your
Yeah.
video, sorry.
Yeah.
So after the placebo effect, when my speech got a little back, obviously not back to where it was initially, but when it got a bit down, that time I felt like, see, there's another system that did not work for me. So I knew that I had tried other systems. I joined the system, initially a huge boost to my speech. After a while, that downfall in me believing this is also not the system for me. It's not working for me. And this is the first mistake that I would like to talk about right here, because that demotivation can sometimes make people stop working on their speech or not work on their speech as much because they start to believe, once again, like Michael just talked about that word, believe that probably it works for people, but it's not for me. I started off, and again, my speech is not going so well. Instead of looking it that way, in order to really correct this mistake, what you need to do is listen to the reviews. See the reviews from the people out there who have followed the Pro 90 speed system, and they would speak about the fact that it's very normal. It's very, very normal to have those ups and downs in your speech, and especially the first down after the placebo effect, so that you don't feel like it's something that's happening to you only. It worked for a while and then it stopped. So, this is something which is really important. Then you need to realize that if it worked initially, even for 3, 4 weeks, it means that it has the potential to work. It has the potential to change your speech. And look at your speech, even though you're facing a downfall, probably after the placebo effect or even later in your journey, look back and see that is your speech is still better than how it was before you started working on your speech. Like we have discussed in some of the previous sessions as well, a mistake that I see people doing, because of which probably they are inconsistent or they are a bit hopeless, is they always keep looking at, I want to reach here. And anything less than that, they see it as a failure, even if it's like 99.9%. We hear a lot of buts. I'm improving my speech. This is going well, but that is not going well. So it's really important to look back and see how much you have improved your speech, because that would give you the motivation to work further on your speech. Really important. Then look out there for the reviews from people who have changed their speech, who have improved their speech. They will let you know that it's completely normal to have those ups and downs in your speech. Listen to Michael's videos, listen to my videos, and then you will realize that it's something which is very, very normal. It is expected, and it should happen, because see it like this: if something could help you completely change your speech in a week and completely help you get rid of stuttering, it means that stuttering can also come back in 1 week. If it can go in 1 week or it can go in one day, it can also come back. So the fact that this takes time is a fact that it's going to stick for the rest of your life. That is why it's taking time. It's going to be solidified almost into your speech system inside your brain. So expect those ups and downs. And this way, you will be motivated while you're working on your speech. Because if you let that motivation down, thinking that it's not working for you, probably there's something wrong with you, you are unique in a way, so then that thing in itself can make people stop working on their speech. And obviously, then you stop working on your speech, then it goes even down, then you feel even demotivated, you stop working even more, and then it can become a downward cycle. Michael, would you like to add something to this?
Yeah. A big part of this, I think I'd use two words. One would be expectations. And we all go into things with sometimes unrealistic expectations. But in this case, the expectation is to eliminate, to completely get rid of so that I don't stutter anymore. I don't experience this anymore. And I would say that does happen for some people. It's gone for whatever reason. I'd say it probably doesn't happen for most, where it's just completely eliminated 100% of the time. You just never struggle with it again. For most people, that's probably not the case. Don't let that discourage you, though, because what you're doing, which is really what Farouk is describing, and what you said earlier in terms of you're glad that you struggled with this, is you're, and I like to say, and you'll understand why I'm saying this later, you're actually building a superpower. You're building an asset. And by building that asset, you're weakening and diminishing the stuttering or the speaking too fast, the mindset, right? And all the things that you struggle with, the lack of confidence. So you're weakening all of that and you're building a new identity, really, one that's more confident, one that's calmer, one that is able to be more persuasive and influential. You're speaking smoother than the average person, believe it or not, because you've worked on your speech using the system. This is not therapeutic to get you back to normal. This is actually helping you go above normal. And we see this and we hear this all the time, so we know that's true. So it's important to have realistic expectations. Expect that this will take as long as it takes. The people we see that do the best just say, this will take as long as it takes, and I'm willing to do that. They're also not looking to completely eliminate or erase. They're like, yeah, of course I understand that there's going to be times where I'm less fluent or I struggle a little bit. And those are the people that change their identities the most and that actually improve the fastest because they're not getting in their own way by, oh, okay, here I go again. I'm starting to slip. And then they demotivate themselves. Or, oh, I thought this was going to do this, right? But once you're like, you know what? I'm just going to keep improving. It'll take as long as it takes. I'm looking at this as though I'm building an asset. And then I just had a client the other day who, let me try to share the story as briefly as I can. Severe stutterer, severe stutter. Came originally from Africa, works here now, has been there for years. And he said one of his goals and dreams is to go back to Africa and speak fluently with his family and friends because some of them used to tease him and they just saw him in a certain way. And he has a little girlfriend now, and he went with her to visit her mom. And his girlfriend told him afterwards, "Wow, you're speaking much smoother than you were when we first met. So just within weeks, and I can see his speech transforming within weeks. And this guy was severe. I'm talking about pushing out, like just not being able to. And now he's able to speak smoother. So my point is, you got to have the right attitude, the right expectations as you're going into this, or you're just going to get in your own way and just go forward and slide back, go forward and slide back.
So, Michael, thank you. Thank you. Good. So, another thing that I would just like to add right here before I move to the second point is some things that you should especially do during your bad speaking days that I learned a lot forward in my journey. And once again, remember, I'm not inside the coaching, I'm inside the self study because I cannot afford it now. And this is the reason why I'm trying to figure out stuff on my own. And the second thing is, or second part to the first thing is, the first mistake that I mentioned about hopelessness. On bad speaking days, I want you to do two main things. Try to visualize your good speaking days, and some of the people who have worked with me or who are working with me right now, like Malika, I've mentioned it a few times inside of our meetings. First thing that I want you to do is visualize your good speaking days. Go back and visualize how you were speaking when you were speaking well. And then the second thing that I want you to do is listen to a lot of audios from Michael inside the system, because when things are not going so well, You want to consume a lot of content that changes your beliefs in that way about it's not working for me, probably it's not for me. See, I am having another bad speaking day. I want you to listen to more audios or watch more videos and try to visualize your good speaking days, how you were speaking probably yesterday when it was a good speaking day or the last week. What are some of the things that you were doing that you are not doing right now? Just pull those things and bring those things right now. And you would see that sometimes you would start to see a change instantly. Incredibly, incredibly important, right? And then expect that there are going to be bad speaking days. It's a part of the process. It's a part of the process, like anything. Second mistake that people often make, especially the ones who are working with the self study, like I also did, is inconsistency. They work on their speech for a while and then life gets in the way. Something gets in the way. Their work, their relationship, whatever it might be, their studies, and then their attention starts to shift more to that or completely to that. So the initial motivation they had to improve and work on their speech can sometimes decrease a bit because they feel like I have so many other things to do. And that is where people start getting inconsistent with their speech practices. Obviously, when you get inconsistent with your speech practices, your own formal practices, and you going out there and speaking with people, that is where the results can start to go down once again because you have stopped practicing or you have stopped practicing as much as you needed to. So, what I did during my journey is I tried to make my practices more enjoyable. So, try to find ways how you can make your speaking practices more enjoyable. Instead of looking at it like work, I have to sit and do the work, I have to sit and practice for hours and hours, and I don't have time for that. Start to build some enjoyment with it. For example, I liked to walk on my roof, especially during the sunlight or during the evening time. So, what I did is that I accumulated my practices during that time. So, while I was walking on my roof, I would practice modeling, I would practice free flow speaking, over and over and over and over and over and over again because I was enjoying the practices now. And something which was quite interesting, I felt that even when I got to where I wanted to be with my speech, I was super fluent and everything. I still kept doing the practices because I started having so much fun with them that I still wanted to do that even after I got to where I wanted. And that is when I realized how important it is to enjoy your practices. So include it with something that you enjoy. Maybe you like to sit in sunlight or you like to walk. You can accumulate your practices right there. Maybe you like to talk about certain things, your hobbies, someone that you like, whatever it is. So during your speech practices, if you can talk about the things that you like, that you enjoy, that can oftentimes also make your practices more enjoyable and make you practice more, which in turn gives you better and better results. This is something which is incredibly important. Even on days where you feel like I cannot do the practices, say to yourself, let's give just 1 minute. Let's just give 2 minutes. All right, I'll just practice for 5 minutes, 3 minutes, because that keeps the momentum going. Even if it's for a minute, it at least kept the momentum going without you having to have had gaps in your speech practices. So the momentum cycle is something which is really, really important right here. Then something that I discovered later with Michael's help is practicing in small chunks because sometimes people try to accumulate their practices in one go, and that is where they start to feel like, oh, it's a lot of work. I have to sit for half an hour, 45 minutes, whatever it is. I can't do that. So if you break it in small chunks, it's a lot more helpful. And even a worse mistake that I've seen people doing that I used to do as well, all day long, they would speak in their old speaking style. Just before going to sleep, they work on their speech and then they sleep. And then the next day, they speak in their old speaking style the whole day. Before going to sleep, they work on their speech and then they sleep. This is not helpful, obviously. So break it in small chunks, 5 to 10 minutes in the morning, 5 to 10 minutes during the lunchtime. Let's say, example, 5 to 10 minutes during the evening, sometime at night, sometime just before you go to sleep. You would enjoy your practices more. And the second thing, it would be much easier for you to use your new speaking style in real life because you know you have just recently practiced 5 minutes ago or 7 minutes ago. Really important. So try to break it down into small chunks. And I realized this as well a lot later. So this is something which is really, really important. If you can break it in small chunks, make it more enjoyable, and when you go out to speak, it becomes a lot easier because you know that you have just recently practiced. So I'll just add one more point to it, Michael, and then you can say something about it when you want. Another thing that is related with practices is proactive speaking. Another mistake that I did that many people do is they work on their speech by themselves, but they never take themselves out and do the practices in real life. So, like we have discussed many times, that learning your new speaking style is like learning a new language. You can keep learning on your own, but if you don't get yourself out there, sometimes it just does not work. Pick one situation, one person every day. I'm going to go up to him and I'm going to go just for the sake of practicing. You can make something up just to say to them. I remember making phone calls to friends, not that I needed to or that I had to, just so that I was like, let me practice extending my words or slowing my speech down or modeling and talk with them. So that gave me a huge boost in my speech journey. Your own personal practices really important, but then the next stage which comes is proactive speaking. At least give yourself one situation of proactive speaking every day where you get into a speaking situation just for the sake of practice. And when you intentionally go for practice, using your new speaking style becomes a lot easier because you know that you are intentionally here to use your new speaking style. And even then, when you're not proactive, when you're reactive, it's a lot easier because you already used it proactively in various speaking situations. What I did during that time is these real life practices. And I think Zena is right here, who also used to be there. Jade also used to be there. We used to have a speaking club, and it was like an unofficial club, Michael, if you remember, that we created back in those COVID times.
Mhm.
And that also was a huge booster to my speech. Why? Because of the real life practices, of course, the successes that I got from there that I could then take out there in the real world. And then the next biggest advantage was that it made me work on my speech because I knew next day or 2 days after we have a club meeting and I have to speak well right there. People would be looking at my speech, and every day we remember 12, 14 people, 15 people sometimes used to join. So it made me practice more, it made me work more on my speech. And that was also a huge, huge booster onto my speech journey. And that is why, that is essentially why we probably started it a bit late.
Oh, he'll be back. I'll just I'll pick up where he left off. Um, he's talking about our virtual speech masters club, and yeah, we probably should have started that years ago, but we've been doing it now for 2 years, and one of the reasons that we did that is because of all the successes that people saw in those smaller groups. So yeah, go ahead, Farouk. I just told them why we started the virtual speech masters club.
I don't know what happened. Like, I
Yeah,
just came back on screen. So good. So that is why we started it a bit late, but we finally did start the Virtual Speech Masters Club. And that is exactly for you to practice everything that you have been learning to gain the successes from here, to have you proactively practice and to increase your personal practices. Because the people who work with us one on one and or the people who are inside the Virtual Speech Masters Club, because they know they have a meeting with us, or they have to go and present in the club, or they have to do an interview or a conversation or a presentation, it makes them work on their speech. And that almost forced me to work on my speech during that time. And that was a huge booster. Yes, Mike.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of affirm what you were saying about practicing in small chunks. We have a video inside our course where I talk about practicing during transitional times, meaning just when you're driving or when you're riding the public transportation or you're even riding with someone, if you have a chance, you can be listening to audio. In some cases, you might even be able to practice if you're driving by yourself. A lot of people have great practice time when they're driving. So there's lots of things you can do during transitional time when you're cooking, when you're cleaning, when you're in the bathroom, when you're walking, when you're working out. These are times for you to listen and or practice. And sometimes those transitional periods can be hours if you calculate them in the day. A lot of times you can get all, if not most, of your practice and listening time in during those transitional times where you don't even have to set aside extra time. We do encourage you to set aside some extra time, especially when you're doing some of the modeling, where you really need to sit and study your model and record yourself. But a lot of times you can just do this stuff during transitional time. The other thing is, keep in mind that one of the keys here is consistency, right? It's not just how much time you put into practice or what techniques you're practicing. It's practicing them consistently, because that's how our brains work. That's how our brains create new patterns, right? New habits is through consistent is through the consistent firing of those neurons that represent that behavior or those thoughts or that action. So what I do is I often trick myself, like Farouk mentioned, I'll trick myself into just getting started. And I do this with working out. I'll say, I don't really feel like working out. I'll just go do one exercise, right? I'm just going to do one exercise. And sometimes I would only do one, but a lot of times I would end up doing two. Now I've gotten it up to three exercises, right? And I'm doing it a little bit more consistently during the week. But when you go into something and you say, okay, I got to sit down and I got to do an hour or 30 minutes, there's an alarm that goes off and it says, oh, no, that's too much. I don't feel like doing that. So you'll find reasons not to do it. But if you just trick yourself and say, I'm just going to do 5 minutes, or I'm just going to get started, then you might find that you actually go a little longer, right? You don't have to go longer, but just be consistent. And if you're consistent, then you'll start to see results. Think about it like this. You want to change the way that you're speaking, the way that you're thinking. You absolutely must create a different and a more dominant way of speaking and thinking. How do you do that? Well, practicing, watching, listening, looking, talking, right? You got to create this more dominant way, or else your current dominant way of speaking and thinking is going to just continue to exist, right? There's no way around it. You have to create this more dominant way. So think of it like getting wet. Uh, let's just say there's a pier and there's a beach. You can take the beach way and you can wade yourself in, and eventually you can get completely wet, right? You can get immersed. Some people just wade in and they just get their feet wet, or their ankles or their calves, or maybe their knees, maybe up to their waist, but they don't go all the way in and immerse themselves. So they're never completely immersed. They're never wet. Some people go and they'll walk in slowly, but they eventually immerse themselves. Some people go run and jump in, they immerse themselves. Some people go on the pier and just jump all the way in and immerse themselves. So there's various ways to immerse yourself, which you must do to change your speaking style and your identity. You have to get completely immersed. And you can wade in and do it slowly, or you can do it quickly, but you but you must do it, right? So you got to think about that too. So one of the mistakes that people make is never fully immersing themselves in the process, not understanding that they still have that dominant way, dominant wiring, if you will, of speaking and thinking, and that you've got to create this new dominant way. And immersion, an eventual immersion is the only way.
Exactly, exactly. All right, Michael, thanks for that. The next point that I want to jump onto is is that people jump a lot between what they are focusing on and what they are practicing. What I mean by that is I used to do it a lot. So I have shared it in the earlier meetings as well or earlier webinars as well. Okay, let's extend my words. And I would try extending. After a week, I was like, no, probably extending is not for me. Let me try blending. Okay, I'm blending. Probably I should directly focus on modeling. Probably I should inflect a bit more. And then I would keep switching between things, thinking that they're not working. Also, switching between my speech models. I modeled Michael initially, but then I felt like I could also model someone else. Probably someone from my own language would be better for me. And then I would keep switching. Let's model him. No, 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 let's model that. After a week. So this switching is also something that sometimes or oftentimes I would say hinders your speech progress. And if you find yourself switching a lot between whether I should slow down or extend or blend or model or do this or do that, if you're working on your own, obviously, if you're working with a coach like Michael or myself, we are there to guide you. But if you're working on your own, like I was for the most part of my speech journey, until I took some coaching from Michael towards the end, which I'll talk about a bit, is that you keep switching and if that is happening, I want you to ask two major questions to yourself. First is, are you doing it the right way? Because let's take the example of extending. People might think that they are extending, but oftentimes when they are working with us, we can let them know that you're not extending the way how you should, or you're not slowing down the way how you should, or you're not blending the way how you should. You should do this, you should do it this way. So this is something which is very important. You need to ask yourself whether you are doing it in the right way. And the second question to ask yourself, have you been doing it enough for you to say that this is not working for me? Slowing down is not for me. Probably I can just focus on the rest of the stuff. Have you tried to slow down your speech enough? And did you really slow your speech down, or you just think that you slowed your speech down? Like I said, if you're working with us, we can let you know. Even if you're not working with us, go out there and check out our videos, check out the content, and see what modeling really means. See what slowing down really means. See what breathing, extending, blending, articulating, finishing, whatever it is, what that really means, and then judge yourself on whether you are doing it the right way. If you're not doing it the right way, start doing it in the right way. And even after you start doing it in the right way, stick with it for a time until you can judge it. Because else you will keep switching between things, you will keep switching between techniques and modeling, and even within modeling to model him or model her or do this or do that. And this can oftentimes delay your speech progress, like it did for me. If I had got into the one on one coaching from the start, I'm sure that I would have reached where I wanted to be within 3, 4 months or so. It took me 2, 3 years because for most part of my speech journey, I was just by myself, right? Even if you find yourself switching between different models, ask yourself, am I modeling the right person? Am I not modeling or am I modeling someone who's a very fast speaker? Am I modeling someone who probably does not relate to me? And then the next question, have I been modeling them enough for me to be able to judge and say, okay, this is not working and probably I should change? So this is very important. You need to ask yourself these things before you keep switching. And that was the time when I fixated on Michael as my speech model for my own language as well and for English as well. I'll just talk about it a bit later. And then I kept giving everything that I worked on more time, whether it was extending and blending, whether it was slowing down, or whatever it was, because that is where you start to see the change. Else, like I said, you keep switching, you feel like everything isn't working. I should try this. It's not working. Next week, I should try this. It's very important to do the right things and then to do them the right amount of time for them to work and so that you can see the results right there. Michael, you'd like to add something?
Yeah, someone just had a quick question because you're talking about modeling, and I think we can answer this pretty quickly. They talked about how their model pauses, which is just normal speech, right? And then they said that the problem is that it breaks that free flow. So, yeah, we have something called the free flow speaking exercise, and we encourage you to practice that at least 30 minutes a day, the modeling at least 30 minutes a day. Often people do one or the other more than that. And so you need both. And you'll find that once you practice free flow speaking, uh, you can actually model, and you you can pause when your model pauses, or you can practice modeling and pause less. You can practice modeling and speak a little slower than your model, right? You can do those things. So modeling isn't completely fixed where you have to pause exactly where your model pauses, where you have to speak at the same exact speed as your model. You can slow it down a little bit. You can pause a little less, or pause more if you need to. And so I just wanted to share that.
No, Michael. Thank you. So, yes, really, really important. Focusing on the right thing and giving it enough time to work before judging and saying it that it's not working and probably I need to change. Sometimes you do need to change, and that is also very important. But that is something that unfortunately you'll have to realize it by yourself if you're working on your speech by your own. But if we are there, because obviously Michael has been doing it for a while, he struggled with his own speech and then he has been coaching for a while. I struggled with my own speech. I used the system and then I've worked with various people for the last 4 years. So we know exactly what you need. Our job as a coach, obviously, is to customize it for you. There are various things out there. You need to focus on this. You need to do this for this amount of time until you're at the right place. Something which is really important. Moving on to the next thing, some people who are bilingual or trilingual speakers. I am a bilingual speaker up till now, but hopefully I'll be trilingual because I'm learning German pretty soon. And that is while you're working on your speech, initially, I used to do all of my speaking practices in English. And then I realized after a while that I'm doing all of my speaking practices in English, but 99.99% of the day I'm speaking my own language, people back in my country, which is Urdu. And because of that reason, I felt like there was a lot of improvement in my speech because the work that you do in English obviously spills over into your own language, but the journey becomes a lot faster once you do the practices in your own language as well. Like Michael talked about modeling, like Michael talked about free flow speaking. So also dedicate some time to practicing in your own language, of course, if you are a bilingual or trilingual speaker, let's say, or even more languages. So whatever language you speak mostly throughout the day, especially try to dedicate some practices to that. Don't stop on the English, keep doing that, and also do some of your practices in your own language because this combination it's going to make that speech journey a lot easier and you're going to see those results a lot faster. I modeled Michael even for my own language. And that is also something which is quite possible because I could not find a model in my own language at that time. So, modeling simply means to copy someone's speaking rhythm, their speaking cadence, to try to speak like them, to try to act like them, to try to feel like them. And I realized that I can even do it in my own language by just asking myself if I can bring Michael's rhythm and cadence and speaking style into my language, or if Michael were to speak my language, how would he speak? And I would, and then I would keep practicing that as well over and over again. Also, dedicate some of your speech practices to your own language. You can find a model in your own language if that works. Just be careful that they should not be a fast speaker. They should not be someone speaking fast is not bad, obviously, but if you're learning to speak better, you're already a very fast speaker, you need more control over your speech. And if you start modeling someone who's a very fast speaker, who's always excited and stuff like that, then it can hinder your progress, right? But if you model someone who is more related to you and you feel like I want to speak like that, it becomes a lot easier. And obviously, you're not becoming that person in the long run. You're just using their speaking identity to fasten your journey. I have my own speaking style, although I've modeled Michael for years and years. Michael, the person or the people that he has modeled, he has his own speaking style. After you get to a place where you want with your speech, even if you want to become that person like completely, of course you can. But if you want to just tweak a few things in your own way, you can do that as well. This is a confusion that many people have. Modeling is not becoming someone in the long term. In the short term, it is just for you to get to where you want a lot faster. You want to add something, Michael?
Yeah, a lot of people struggle with modeling because it does require more effort. But I want you to remember that uh, the way you learned your first language or languages was through modeling. So as as humans, right, and as babies, we didn't learn initially by reading a book because we couldn't read, right? The only thing that we could do is observe. We could watch, we could listen, right? We could sense, we could feel. And that's the way we learned many of our characteristics, our mannerisms, and our language until we were able to read eventually. But we just watched, we learned by observation. And even as adults, we still learn by modeling. And sometimes it's unconscious, which is why we always say we have to be careful of the people that we hang around with because we can unconsciously pick up habits and thoughts and beliefs and characters. So we're still modeling. Adults who are very, very good, often at the top of their game in any field, business, music, art, doesn't matter. They've all modeled someone else. Dancing, I model people all the time. I watch them, I study them, and I'm like, wow, like the way this guy does this. And then, so we model. So don't think that modeling is weird or something that I can't do. You are doing it. You have done it, and you're still doing it, believe it or not. We're just structuring it as an activity. And believe it or not, even though it takes time and effort, it's actually the fastest way and the best way to change not only your speaking style, but your speaking identity, because it gives your mind what we like to call a mental puzzle, something else to focus on other than what you have been focusing on. Me and how I speak, and these words and that word, this situation and that failure. You're shifting your focus over to how would my model say this? How would my model feel right now? How do I feel when I'm modeling? Right? You're thinking about those things. And if you think about those things and you practice those things, and you watch and you listen and you think and you talk about it, you're going to get more of those things. It's just the way your brain works. It's 100% correct. There's no doubt to this, right? So keep this in mind that modeling absolutely works. People will model in different ways. They'll have different scales in terms of somebody can feel completely like their model, somebody can just feel a little different than themselves. It all works. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I would just add to that, it almost worked with me like a tripod stand, where it was modeling, free flow speaking, and consistently listening to audios over and over again. So dedicating a lot of time to free flow speaking, because most of the people, like I used to do as well, we anticipate a lot of words. We are so used to stopping and having to pause and anticipate every word and then worrying if you would get stuck, speaking in a very choppy way. So, free flow speaking, in that you learn the art of breathing, extending, and blending. And that is something which is really important. And then modeling, really important. Audio listening, really important. So three of those things, there has to be some part of each every single day. One thing that we have also observed, that it's mostly not preferable, advisable, and I think Michael, you would agree to that, to start focusing on modeling while speaking to people just as you begin your speech journey. The modeling practices are very important right from the start, but initially, it's much better if you first bring your speaking style a bit closer to your model by slowing down your speech, by breathing, extending, and blending more. So that way, what you're doing, if your model is right here, you are right there, you're bringing it a little closer, and then it becomes easier to catch. And on the other hand, if you just try to start modeling right from the start, that is where people often get confused. It's not working, it's not happening, it's very hard to do, because probably you have not done some of the prerequisites that are required for you to model in the best way. So initial times, it's really important to slow your speech down, to develop a control over your speech, to develop a flow in your speech instead of your speech being very choppy. And even after you get a little better on those aspects, it becomes easier to catch your model's speaking style and to model them. This is something which is really important. So, modeling, free flow speaking, and audio listening. And obviously, the other things, they don't take a lot of time, but they go hand in hand with this, and they are incredibly important. And that is your affirmations, that is your self talk. Because until you do the self talk, until you remind yourself to use your new speaking style, until you remind yourself of your successes, until you remind yourself that you're an excellent speaker or you're becoming an excellent speaker, oftentimes the other work that you're doing might not be that helpful. So, affirmations every single day, self talk every single day. One more thing that I used to do that I will share with you is visualizations that we have talked about a bit in the past. What I used to do is every day, just as I woke up, I try to visualize my whole day speaking the way exactly how I wanted to speak. So, visualization is not only for presentations or stage performance or interview, it's a lot helpful for that, but you can even do it for one-on-one conversations or small little conversations. So during the morning, I would be like, what conversations I would be having this day, probably with my mom, with my dad, something at my school, and then I would visualize myself speaking the way how I wanted to speak. Then starting off with affirmations, ending the day with affirmations all day, reminding myself to use my new speaking style. After my speaking situations, reminding myself to look back at my speech and focus on the successes, focus on the things that are going well to keep me motivated. And those are the real things that kept me going through this journey. Also, 777 breathing exercise. People who struggle with their speech also often struggle with their breathing. They have less control over their breathing. So the more you do this exercise, And the more you remind yourself to breathe during speaking situations, you get a better control over your breath and hence your speech. And it feels you or it makes you feel more relaxed and calm, which in turns make you speak a lot better, right? I'm not going in a lot of details about 777 visualization, stuff like that. You can find our videos on that. But the point I'm trying to make is that being consistent with all these things is something which is really important. Before I just get on to the last thing, Michael, do you have something to add to this?
No, no. Okay, keep going.
All right. So, like I said, these are the mistakes that I initially made, and I don't want you to repeat them. And a big reason to why I made those mistakes is I wasn't working one on one with someone. Initially, I wasn't in a speaking club where I could get feedback from people, where I could speak with people. So, this is why the journey took me a lot longer until finally I did those meetings as well. And then finally, I got some coaching from Michael towards the end, where he coached first my speech a bit in order to take it to the further next level. And then he coached me on how to coach people with their speech. And from that time, I have been doing it. I think it has been almost 4 years now, working with people all over the world, helping them with their speech, which has been a great journey, something that I always wanted to do. And that's why I reached out to Michael during that time. I remember that I want to work as a coach. And then he was very happy to get me in and to coach me first on a few things about my speech and then on how to coach other people with their speech. So, this is something which is really important. Everything that I shared is from my own journey and from the journey of different people, different clients that we have worked with, things that work for people, things that don't work for people, mistakes that people make, and how you should avoid those mistakes, how you can avoid those mistakes. So, this is something which is really important. So the videos, the YouTube videos, the self-study course, really, really good. It has almost everything that you need. But sometimes to make that journey faster, to give you that extra push, to reach where you want to reach a lot faster, a lot easier, there's the one-on-one coaching, there's the virtual speech masters club, and that is why we have those two things so that the journey for you can become a lot easier and we can make sure that you don't repeat or do the mistakes that we just talked about during this whole session. Am I audible, Michael?
Yeah, it was breaking up a little, but I could still hear you.
Right. Is it good now?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Is it good now? You can hear me, or is it still not the
Yeah,
case? Okay, okay, okay.
I can hear you fine now. Yeah.
Good, good. So, like I said, that is why we have those two main things for you. And if you want to make your journey faster, if you want to make your journey a lot easier by getting more accountability, knowing that you're working with someone, you have to work on your speech because you'll be having a meeting with a coach, or you will be in a virtual speech masters meeting that in itself makes you work more on your speech, which is really important. Then you get the feedback that you need. Sometimes, like I said, people don't know if they are focusing on the right thing, whether they are doing it in the right way, whether they have been doing it long enough. So that is for what a coach is, to let you know that. More encouragement so that you don't feel off the hook that I'm unique. It's not working for me. There are some things that are not working. I'm facing these bad speaking days. So, coach is to make you realize that this is just a part of the process and you need to keep on going. So, all these things make reaching where you want a lot faster, a lot easier. And Michael, I let you like speak a bit on virtual speech masters or the coaching or whatever.
Well, yeah, someone had a question. in YouTube, so I'm just going to paste it here, and I'll let you answer that because I think it's actually for you. Um, yeah, they just wanted to know what, from your perspective, what helped you the most.
Interesting. So there were a lot of things. Obviously, it's very hard to say one, but if I were to summarize, slowing down gave me that control over my speech. And without it, I know nothing else would have worked. It's often like trying to learn how to play football without learning how to walk. It's that basic, but it is that important. And oftentimes, that can give you 80% of your improvements. Second thing that I would say was speaking in a flow, learning how to speak in a flow instead of stopping and pausing, anticipating every word, making my speech choppy, learning that flow. So, breathing, extending, and blending, you learn the art of slowing down, you learn the art of blending by the free flow speaking exercise. That is something which is really important. So, slowing down, speaking in a flow, and then modeling. So if I were to name three things, these would be these three main things. And the first two helped me with the third thing. When I did the first two, the third thing became a lot more easier. And obviously, all of these things happen because of self talk, because I was constantly reminding myself to do all of this stuff. So, yeah, if I were to pick three, although you asked me to pick one, but it would be hard. But if I were to pick three, I think these would be the major three. Yeah.
Very good. Yeah, someone said on YouTube that they really appreciate our videos and that they also really, really like the interview or video that we did with Haley when she explained her speech journey.
Uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh.
So, yeah,
Interesting.
good. So, yeah, I've posted a couple of links there. One is a link to our homepage, a lot of information on there, but you can basically get wherever you need to go. You can get to our virtual speech masters. If you guys want to work with Farouk directly, there's a link there for him to book an appointment with him to go to his page. If you want to work with me, there's a link there for that. There's links for our self-study, links to join our YouTube, Spotify channel. So from our homepage, you can pretty much get to anything. A good first step for those of you that might be listening, because there are some people that were asking about, um, all right, some things they could do inexpensively. I'd say the best thing would be to join a virtual speech masters club. That's the best thing and the least expensive thing. Something else that's pretty cheap, if you will, would be the listening to the affirmations. I put a link in YouTube for that. But the very best thing would be to join that Virtual Speech Masters Club. Most people should be able to scrape up 120 US dollars for 6 months, and you get a lot of value from that. Yeah. So that's pretty much all that I have, except to say that you want to go back and watch this video. We'll also go ahead and get this transcribed and we'll get a recap so that you can see the highlights and you can go through and just make sure that you don't make the same mistakes that a lot of people make that Farouk has just talked about.
Absolutely. So if anybody has any extra questions, let us know. If not, like we explained, here are your next steps. You can join that affirmations audio. You can join the Virtual Speech Masters Club, obviously a really good option. And if you want a one-on-one speech coach, you can work with Michael, you can work with myself, and we can help you through that. So if no more questions, we'll just wrap it up. We are
Good.
doing more of these sessions these these weeks, and I think this is really good for us to get live and talk about a few things. We will do some sessions, especially dedicated to the virtual speech masters as well, where we would have some members from them from the club and share their experience and everything. So that would be pretty good as well. So yeah, look out for more of these sessions. If you're already in the system, you have been there for a while, you're looking to make your progress a lot faster, join the speaking club, or and obviously when you work one-on-one with us, you get access to the club complimentary. So that is also something which is really helpful.
Yeah.
Yep.
And, just remember, whatever you decide to do, it's an investment and you want to see a return. So whether it's a speech club, self-study, or working with us one-on-one, it's a financial investment. It's an investment of your time and your energy. And in order for you to get that return, you do have to put in the work and you really do have to trust us. If we say, focus on this and do this, trust us. You just do it. It's going to work for you because we've done it with other people. I've been doing it for over 13 years now. It's more than a decade. So probably tens and tens of thousands of hours and thousands of students. Farouk's been doing this for at least 3 to 4 years now. So it's a system, it's a process, and it works. And we're here to fine tune that for you, but you do have to put in the work. Yes, Isaac, you have a question.
Thank you very much, Michael. Just a quick one. I want to find out the $397 on the website. I want to know, can you summarize what it, if I take that program, what and what I will benefit? So just a summarize one. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Sure. So that is our complete course. In fact, it's a bundle of courses that we have. And for a limited time, it also will include our virtual speech masters. You also get our latest affirmations audio, which is not included in virtual speech masters or normally our course. This is an audio program that I recently created just based on requests and challenges that we saw people have. So I created an affirmations audio and a whole little program around helping people to slow down and or how to remember to use your new speaking style, right? So that's what this is designed to do. So you get all of that bundled into the 397. So you get our complete course, bundle of courses, and complimentary access for at least 6 months to our virtual speech masters club for that 397. Plus you get the new affirmations program. So
Okay.
hopefully that.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
You're welcome. Sure. All right, Farouk, are we ready to wrap up now?
Yep. I think so.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Like Farouk said, we'll be doing these. Some will be a little more interactive, or we'll be asking questions throughout. Farouk just wanted to really have some time today to share his personal story and journey and some of the common mistakes that people make. So thank you so much, Farouk. And we look forward to seeing some of you. You can visit our virtual speech masters. We do them every Saturday. One of us, at least one of us, will be there every Saturday. You'll usually always see Farouk. I'm there very often, right? Most of the time, but sometimes I will skip Saturday too. So you'll see at least one of us. Often you'll see both of us there. And you can join one session for free. So you can come and check it out. Okay. All right. We'll see
Yeah.
everyone the next time.
All right. We'll see everybody. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.